to me, contrast is also realizing like sometimes really hard stuff is going to happen, and I'm actually going to learn and adapt in that process. And it's going to prepare me also for the highs and the experiences in my life that also are going to come. Hello, and welcome to Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. This podcast is dedicated to chiropractors who are in the seasons of launching and building their practice. Join myself, Dr. Lona, and my co-host, Dr. Bobby, as we have conversations each week as it relates to building the practice of your dreams. And remember, you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. We're here to lead you on the way.
So welcome back, team, to the Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast with the amazing Dr. Lona Cook and myself, Dr. Bobby Lajastovic, where every week we come to you guys with key practice building tools and tips that you can take away in your office. And guys, our goal with this podcast is that we give you actionable steps and practical steps that you can be doing every single day into your podcast, into your practice, I should say. So what that means is if you've got suggestions for podcasts, which a lot of you guys have been reaching out to me, please send them through. We would love any suggestions that you want, any topics that you want us to cover, guys. We're going to go there and we're going to go there in detail. So if there's anything you want us to cover about marketing, conversion, retention, team building, any part of practice, we are more than happy to go in detail with you through those suggestions. Just send them over to us. But with that, Dr. Lona, what's been happening? How you been?
Great. Getting ready for a July 4th celebration here. It's summertime. And I know on the converse side, you've got winter, right? But it looks like winter's pretty good where you're sitting. So
Yes. Winter is not too bad here. That is true. We just had a huge immersion. So we had immersion here in Australia on the weekend. It was 2-day training. It was conversion retention, which was fabulous. I know in the US, you guys had that a couple of weeks ago. So I'm getting ready now tomorrow to fly out to New Zealand. So now we run our New Zealand intensive, which will be a full day intensive training in New Zealand. So I'm pumped. I'm excited. I love when we get to like live events and just roll up the sleeves and start role playing and training. And it's ultimately what makes us great.
Right. I agree. And like you, Bobby, I think the more feedback we get of things that maybe we've said on even previous podcasts, you're like, could you go deeper on this? Or what did you mean when you said this? This is great feedback for us to then make this podcast really relevant to you guys, because we want to see chiropractic grow in the world. And that happens through all of us building our practices. So we're excited to jump into today's topic, which is kind of a higher level conversation about just how we look at practices and know, like, sometimes you just meet people, like they're going to be successful. And so Bobby, if you want to tee us up, like, what are some of the things when we looked at building out this next conversation, we wanted to say, like, what are some of these practices that really hit the ground running? What are foundational cues that we're looking for, both in that owner operator of the practice, as well as probably who they're looking to hire down the road?
So great question. And let me give you a bit of background story behind where this also stemmed from. So I had somebody on a coaching call say this to me a few weeks ago, and they said, Dr. Bobby, you've worked with a lot of chiropractors. Have you recognized that there is one trait that someone who you know is going to be successful exhibits? And that question really got me thinking, okay? And I was sitting there and, I was looking at all the hundreds of different officers and chiros I work with. And I think to myself, my wife asked me this question as well. Have you picked up that there is a trait, early on when you start working with somebody, that if this person has this trait, you know that they're going to be successful? And as I was sitting there, I was thinking about it, a couple of things came to mind. And Dr. Lona, you and myself were talking about this. And it's funny how both of us immediately just like gelled on these three, we call them foundational pillars. And so I want to take our time now to go through these pillars and unpack them for you, because when you hear them, I want you to listen to them and I want you to ask yourself the question, do I exhibit this trait? Okay. Is this something that I exhibit, or is this something that I need to work on? And knowing that there's so many things that you could be focused on and so many things that you could get distracted by, if you just stay focused on these three things and becoming the person who exhibits these three things, I know that you're going to be successful. Right? Yeah, there's a whole equation. Alana, you've heard of the whole be, do, have, right? You've got to be a certain way and then you'll do certain things and you'll have certain things. Have you heard that before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Legendary. People think it's like have, be, do. When I have this, then I'll be, this way. When I have a successful practice, and there's a lot of people coming in, then I'll have more money, so I'll be more happy. And it doesn't work like that. You got to do it in the other way around, right? So 3 foundational pillars of practice success. Without further ado, I want to get stuck into these. These are what Dr. Lona and myself see across all the people, not just that we work with, but that we've interacted with in the years and years that we've been in chiropractic, that if you have these things in common, guys, they're going to stick out for you now like a sore thumb when you hear them. They're going to lead to success for you, all right? And here's what they are. Number one, above all else, I would say this one sits at the top of the list for me. So the number one foundational pillar of practice success is speed of implementation. Speed of implementation basically also translates to GSD. We like to call that getting shit done, right? Or getting stuff done. People that exhibit speed of implementation, where they hear something, and the moment they hear it, bang, you know, when you're getting off a call with them, okay, they're messaging you like an hour and a half later and being like, done, I've organized this, I've spoken to these people, it's already happening. You're like, boom, I know this person's going to be on top of it. Lona, why don't you talk to me about that speed of implementation, your experience of this, maybe both with yourself, with your businesses, and with people that you work with colleagues that you've had. What's your experience been with people who have speed of implementation actually take action on things?
Yeah, I love that. You know, you heard the line before, you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right? And there's an element of that that's true. It's like some people just have that thrust power to like see things from start to finish, or at least to like get them mobilized and in action. And so when we think about building a practice and launching a practice, and especially when so much of it is still on our shoulders, maybe we haven't gotten the like full dynamic of a team around us yet, or maybe we have one team, but we're quickly growing. There is an element where perfectionism is going to just like stop us in our tracks, right? So getting shit done, meaning like take initiative. It doesn't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. And that doesn't mean sloppy. It just means we can stay in this like mental activity sometimes of like, oh, but it's not quite where I want it. And then we never launch ourselves. And to me, especially when I'm working with the newer docs who are just getting ready to open their doors, or in that first phase where they need to be out marketing and they need to go meet people, and they fixate on one thing and it keeps them from getting out and doing all these other things they need to do. It's like, oh, that just kills the energy and kills the momentum. So to me, speed of implementation is so critical. And then on the flip side of that, Bobby, too, as you're hiring your teammates, you know, recognizing too, when you have somebody who takes it and runs with it, you know, for instance, my office manager now, I remember when we first hired her, she came in as a check-in CA role. She came to one of our first team meetings she was at, and we had given her some task, and she came with that task done. And not only was it done, but she had made a small, short PowerPoint on how for the rest of the team to like do it. And I was like, whoa, she just up-leveled this whole team on how fast she like implemented what was asked of her and then carried it out for the rest of the team. I was like, kudos, kudos, kudos. And there's going to be a seat on this bus always for people who get shit done, right? So Bobby, I'd love your thoughts there too.
You said a line there, and I wrote that down because I think that you summarized this beautifully. You know, you're talking about getting stuff done and implementing things, and that does not mean sloppy. I love that because I've worked with people in the past who, you know, they just get it done, but it's all sloppily done, right? And it's all sloppily done in a way where it achieves a certain outcome, but sometimes the outcome that it achieves is actually worse than what we would have hoped for. So it doesn't mean sloppy, it doesn't imply sloppy, but it also doesn't imply perfection. You know, speed of implementation for me means I hear something and then I go and I start doing it, because at the end of the day, the way that you get 90% of your learnings in life is through failures anyway. So another line that you may have heard people say sometimes is fail fast, fail often, and fail forward. So, you know, I always love examples and I love analogies because it helps me understand it for myself. And then I hope that that translates for you guys to understand it as well. But, you know, in the early days, somebody would say to me, hey, one of the ways to meet new patients is go on spinal screen, go and stand and talk to people. Now, that weekend, I was off spinal screening. I was like, okay, let's go spinal screen, rock and roll. Did I walk away from that weekend going, man, signed up 15 newies. That was freaking awesome. All right, I've got it now. No way. My first spinal screening ever, I stood there, and you know what? It was a 6-hour event. And in that 6-hour event, I spoke to, I think, 6 to 10 people maybe. And I was giving away all these goodies and bags and, you know, how I thought that it should be done. And by the start of the event, we'd made these little protein balls, so handmade protein balls. I had this beautiful plan where I was like, all right, we're going to give these protein balls to everyone. That's going to get people to stop and engage and talk to us. And then by having a protein ball, we're going to get them to a spinal screening. And then from a spinal screening, we'll, you know, get them into a day one. I had this beautifully executed plan. So like Lona said, it wasn't sloppy. I didn't just rock up and like sloppily do it. No. But by the end of that 6 hour screening, what had happened is all my protein balls had been eaten and there was no new patients in the books. So I was like, so I was like, hang on, what the heck happened here? How did this go wrong? And then the very last person, it's kind of like, you know, God gives you these little gifts, these little clues. The very last person of that day, I kid you not, it was like pack up time, stops and has a screening and signs up as a new patient. And I was like, whereas at day one. And I was like, ooh, it was kind of like a little message from above saying, you're on the right track. Okay, you're on the right track. So then the next one, I sat there and I realized, oh, hang on, there's something going on here. The protein balls were attracting people, but they were attracting them for the wrong reason. They were attracting the hungry people. Oh, great, free protein balls. And then they were asking me things like, do you sell them here, right? Do you sell protein balls? And I'm like, no, we don't sell protein balls, but we're doing spinal assessments. And so what I recognized through that is that the person that I was attracting wasn't the kind of person that I was aiming to attract. So for the next screening, I refined it. I changed it. I substituted out the protein balls. I started to add in something different with the appearance of the stand. And then the next time I did it again and again and again. And then with time, I just kept failing, but learning. And then got to the point that I recognized and learned screening, like life, is about energy. So it's about being there. It's got to be the right kind of event. It's got to be in the right location, right? Whether you've got the great traffic, people are coming at you. And then the energy of me and the energy of my team has to be on point because people are going to be actually attracted to me. And I know that I'm doing this right when people stop. And sometimes I ask them, hey, what made you stop to get assessed? And I remember this one lady, she says, oh, you just looked so happy and interesting. I don't know.
I
Okay.
love it.
You guys just look like you're having fun here, even though there was like no one here, right? I just want to see what you guys are about. And I was like, that's a good example of it. And I learned that through doing it.
Yes, I love what you said there. I think also the part, you know, when we hear the words like GSD, right? Sometimes it's like, and reflect and analyze what worked, what didn't work. How could I like reorganize around what I just learned? That's the whole like fail faster, you know, fail better, right? Because if you just keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. But you analyzed, what did I do well? What could I tweak here? Maybe I don't want to talk about protein balls all day. You know, I want to talk about chiropractic. And so I made a new pivot there. That's the speed of implementation versus doing that 6 more times and then reflecting on it, right? That's so good. Bobby, that was a great analogy. So thank
But
you.
the only way I would have known is if I did it. Okay. I could have like sat at home and thought about it and go, maybe protein balls, maybe no, people are going to get attracted. I don't know until I go and do it and fail and then do it again. So number one pillar to success, guys, we call it speed of implementation. When someone that you're working with, when someone is a mentor, is guiding you, tells you to do something, just get it done, right? And you will learn from that experience. Love it. All right. Pillar number 2. Dr. Lona, I don't know, hand this one over to you. What's the second pillar that you have noticed leads to practice success if consistently executed over time? We love this one, don't we?
I do love this one. And it kind of goes off what I had said with my current office manager when she had said, oh, you want me to do this? I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to implement it. And then I'm going to take initiative and go a step further, right? So it's take initiative, and it intimately interacts with the speed of implementation, right? So if we can have a team that is radically responsible for every part of the office, right? Where we're trained well, we know our role as well as we're cross-trained. We want a whole bunch of people who take initiative within their role, right? And that's how like there's really no fat cats or people who aren't carrying their weight. Everybody's showing up and working and taking initiative. So not only for the owner operator, but also in the people you hire, you want people who take ownership and initiative so that you really create leverage. So Tori was a great example when she took the initiative to get organized around what we had offered her to like as a project, if you will, that she was going to work on. She took the initiative a step further by teaching us all what she had learned, which made the whole team better, right? So when you see that as the owner operator within your team, people who are willing to take things off your plate, make them better, possibly do them even better than you did. Oh, that's super special. And we want to nurture that. We want leadership around us. That's how we create, you know, where we can go a lot further than we could on our own accord. So, you know, for the newer docs out there, when you're on maybe a coaching call or when you're listening to the podcast, you're like, that's a great idea. I should implement that. And I also should take initiative to go the extra mile to like implement what I'm learning, right? So those two things go together. I think most people have been through maybe like traditional education, you know, not the almost like the initiation and the implementation has been bred out of us sometimes of like, it's okay to not know exactly the next step and still go and still move forward. And you're going to figure it out and you're going to be nimble and you're going to learn. And those two things go hand in hand.
Spot on the mark. I love that one. And when you were telling us the story about your office manager, that's exactly what came to my mind. I was like, man, she takes initiative. So for you guys that are CEOs out there listening to us, so you have a team, you're running a team. I want you to look for that in potential team members. Okay. One great sign that you've got someone who's golden is that they take initiative, meaning that they hear something and then they go above and beyond and actually expand it and making it better. And think about this for a second. Everybody has unique talent sets. Everybody has a different lens through which they view the world and the universe. No two people are the same, and no two people are identical in how they view the world and how they execute. So I could explain something to Lona that could be in her wheelhouse. And even though I might come up with an idea and kind of give direction, it's in her wheelhouse. She can make it better if she takes initiative, or she can just follow exactly, you know, what I say and just execute it like that. And it kind of leads to okay results, but it could be better if she took initiative and if she applied her own style, her own input to that. So I absolutely love that. So you could use example after example of taking initiative, but you know, you used before you're talking about coaching calls. And a great example of this is on a coaching call. If you instruct someone, if you say, hey, you know what, one of the things that you want to start doing is you want to start practicing workshops. Because the way to practice workshops is start doing them in your office with a better results faster. A better results faster will get you to a point where you get comfortable speaking, you get comfortable being in front of a crowd, you get comfortable working a room. Somebody who has speed of implementation, by the time our next call comes around, they're like, oh, I've already booked in, organized, and sometimes I've already done my first PRF. That's the example of speed of implementation. Somebody who's like, no, I haven't done it yet, I haven't organized it yet, that's the opposite of that. Somebody who takes initiative is the kind of person who's like, hey, I've done the BRF and it was so good that I've already shifted and changed the slides around, and I've already booked my next 3 every week in a row for the next 3 weeks. And I've already penciled inside of my calendar when I'm going to do my first advanced workshop where I'm going to start inviting heaps of guests and start marketing into my office. That's taking initiative. It's like, whoa, we just spoke about BRF and getting the training wheels on for learning how to speak. And this person's already gone and rechanged their workshop. Okay, they've tweaked it. They've booked their next 3, and they've already earmarked and booked when they're going to start doing an advanced workshop that will market and start getting guests to. Love it. That's taking initiative.
So good. I heard the line one time, if it is to be, it's up to me, right? And it's like, that's kind of the idea here with both of these is like, I'm going to take ownership, and I'm going to take ownership and move it to the next level even. And whether that's you as the practice owner, and I see it with some of our launch docs we're working with too, where it's like, you're going to take ownership to a degree that maybe you've never thought of before, as you think about, I'm wearing not only the hat of being the chiropractor, but now the business owner and the leader and the marketing director and all these things. I got to take ownership in all these places and implement and execute and get better at each step of the way, right? So look at it not as like overwhelming, but as it's like a game you're playing. And the more you can execute and learn from what you're executing, you're going to get to successful results faster.
You know what? I love that. I love that you use the analogy of a game you're playing, because I totally resonate with that. Man, at the end of the day, really, if you just distill this in its most simple form, business is a game. It's a game of balancing team with cash flow, with marketing, with an amazing product, with conviction around that product, with world-class results, with continuing to refine that product and get it better, with continuing to fall passionately in love with that product, with continuing to be energized about it, surrounding yourself with great people that will also energize you, understand the dynamics of human emotions, both those that are on your team and yourself, and then those that come into your business. It's all human emotions. Balancing that with cash flow, with how we're charging, with any other additional streams of income into our office. And at the end of the day, turning a profit. And I say, most importantly, having fun, right? I think it's exactly what it is, Lona. You nailed it there. It's a freaking game. And when you get out of that headspace, I know I did, of looking at it in terms of, oh, this is business, I can't stuff anything up. And I moved into the headspace of, this is a game. And just like when I was a kid, when I was a youngster, and I'd play a game, and at the beginning I'd suck at it, and then after a while I'd figure it out, and I'd be like, oh, and you know what? It would especially help me figure out when my brother's older mates would come around and be like, where are you stuck? What level? Oh, here's what you got to do. Just boom, boom, boom. You attack the dragon from this side. You're like, oh, or you'd get stuck. And later the internet emerged and you could go online and find like, hey, I'm stuck here. What do you do? Ah, you find the button located in this area. Oh my goodness, that totally makes sense. How did I not see it? That's what coaching and mentoring is. It's somebody saying to you, look, here's the components of the game. You're missing this, you're missing that, right? And actually seizing to practice. I love that you brought that up, Lona. I think they spot on the mark.
Well, that kind of leads us to our third pillar here, which is having fun, positive mental attitude. And to me, Bobby, I think that trumps everything because that's where the juice is. Like you just said, when I've made it a game, it became fun. And like you think about any game you play, when you play it at a higher level, of course you have to train more. Of course you have to get better and better and better to keep up, right? Like, and I'm sure you feel that way too. When I think about the game I played when I was year one in practice versus now, it's a different game because I'm different and I've elevated my ability to play the game, right? But I stay playful with it. It's fun. It's fun having to look at not only how do you help transform people's lives, but how do you bring a team along in the process and your own life transforms. So to lighten your load about things so that you can, I always say, like, is your cork floating? Like, can you float your cork in this? Or is it feel so heavy that you're getting like swamped down in it? I'd love your thoughts on that, Bobby.
I think BJ had a quote about this, about not taking yourself too damn seriously.
Mhm.
And I remind myself of that quote often, because third pillar number 3, for those of you guys who missed it, is positive mental attitude. So those of us who exhibit a positive mental attitude and they always approach the task, the day, the challenge with like a positive mental attitude, seem to not only enjoy the process, but actually get better outcomes from it as well. It's definitely a trend that I've noticed with people. Whereas the ones that get into their own head and overanalyze things and everything is too hard or everything is a challenge, actually get worse results. And I think so often it's just a perspective shift in our mind that we need to make.
Mhm.
Because often we go into business. I know I went into business like this early on, thinking in my mind, oh, I hope I don't have any challenges. Okay. Oh, I hope I don't have any challenges. And then one of my good mentors in chiropractic, Dr. Patrick Tempo, had this great analogy with which I thought was spot on the mark. And he goes, just approach business like I'm going to have challenges. Every single day, I'm going to be eating a bowl of shit. The question isn't, will I be eating a bowl of crap or not? The question is, how big is the bowl going to be today? That's the only question you should ask yourself. Okay. And when I started asking myself that, I started to realize my perspective changed. It wasn't about, avoiding any issues and avoiding problems. Kind of going, there's going to be problems. Let's just have a look. Am I eating a big bowl of shit today or a little bowl of crap? But you know what, Lina? At the end of the day, it makes me feel better because I know I'm eating shit. You're going to be eating crap today. Stephen Franson's going to be eating crap, right? Pete, a lot of our coaches in TAP are going to be eating crap. If you're listening to this on the call today, you're probably going to be eating crap today. Don't worry about it. We're all eating the crap. Okay. However, the reality is every now and again, you're not going to get a bowl of crap. You're going to rock up and you're going to get a bowl of cherries. Okay. And it's those cherries then that taste so good. And the only reason they taste so good is because of the bowls of crap. So if you had cherries every single day, what would happen after a while to the taste of cherries?
They wouldn't be that exciting.
It wouldn't be that exciting, right? You'd be like, the only reason chocolate is, so awesome, but chocoholics love it is because it's that guilty little pleasure. I have it every now and again. If you had chocolate, breakfast, lunch, dinner, every single day, everything was made of chocolate and you could only eat chocolate, man, you would very quickly get sick of that thing and you'd be like, I don't want to ever see that again in my life. So that's how the universe and that's how the world is geared. So it's the bowl of crap that we're eating that actually makes the cherries taste so good. And that's just the way that you should look at it. So that really helps in terms of shaping a positive mental attitude. I don't know if that helps you, but it certainly helps me.
You know, I think one thing I realize is like positive mental attitude doesn't mean like toxic positivity where everything has to be golden all the time because life, like Bobby just said, like you're going to eat a bowl of crap some of the time. And there is things that happen that are heavy and hard. And certainly as chiropractors, when we're feeling people's spines and their stuff in their nervous system, like we're feeling some of the heavy stuff that has like happened to people. But when we can play with this idea that everybody's going to go through contrast. And I don't know if any of you that are listening listen to like Esther Hicks, but she uses the word contrast. Like what Bobby is saying, like when you've seen what a bowl of shit tastes like, and then you get cherries, like you see the contrast, you can feel the difference, right? To me, contrast is also realizing like sometimes really hard stuff is going to happen, and I'm actually going to learn and adapt in that process. And it's going to prepare me also for the highs and the experiences in my life that also are going to come. And so to me, that's that dance. And that's why I use the word playful a lot, is like, I just want to stay playful. I want to stay nimble because, yep, challenges are coming. And so are successes, and likely they're right on the heels of the challenges. And that's that positive mental attitude will take you through that process and birth you into many iterations of yourself. Like Bobby started the podcast saying, be, do, have, right? Like we get to step into being the person who has a successful mindset, a positive mindset, in order then to have the things that come by embodying what that feels like, and what that challenge in our own mind to like, you know what, you can actually choose new thoughts. So for some of you listening, if you have found yourself to be pretty hard on yourself or pretty negative, is there a way that you can like loosen your grip a little bit and realize you can choose to think different thoughts about your practice, about your past experiences, about maybe successes or failures you've had in the past, and come into this present moment, lighten your load, be playful about practice. That's how you're going to get better results in practice and have a more successful trajectory ahead.
Yeah, spot on the mark. Lona, one of the things that I've observed with you is this third one, positive mental attitude. I've seen this in you from the moment that we met and the moment that we started hanging out more. And I'd love, what are some tips? So if I'm sitting here going, oh man, I can see it in Lona as well. I can feel it in her energy, in her voice. I can sense it in your spirit, man. What are some tips you would give to somebody about, okay, helping improve? I want to be more positive, but I just find I get dragged down by this, or I get dragged down by that. Do you have any tips around that you could potentially offer, or any takeaways about how can I improve my mental attitude on things and embrace it more as a spirit of playfulness?
Thanks, Bobby. Yes, from a play, I think first of it's like self-awareness, right? Which is a good place to start, is like, when do I feel lighter and good versus when do I feel contracted, or like things are heavy, or I'm getting beat up? And a lot of it is the thoughts we're choosing to think about something. And so if you can, instead of like going down the rabbit hole of all the reasons why you can feel like shit and you're staring at the bowl of shit, right? If you start to look at, okay, but when do I feel good? And this is true with patients too. Like, when have I felt my best? Oh, well, it was when I was, and it may be physical things, like it's when I move every day, or I run, or I do these other things, or it may be like, hey, it actually was when I wasn't working this job, So for as chiropractors, it's like, if we're paying attention, for instance, know how you're wired, right? Like if I'm the person that's in the details of all the online stuff, like I was doing a EHR consultation of like figuring out some stuff with our EHR, and there was a ton of clicks and a ton of things, and it was all detailed work on a computer screen. By 45 minutes in, my brain wants to just like scream, right? And so when you know yourself, you can start to see, hey, I'm actually not my best self when I'm doing certain things. My genius is over here, and I'm more playful when I'm over here, and I feel good about this. And that's part of how you create like this playful attitude, is recognizing, where do I need to develop myself, and also where do I just need to put team around me in certain places so that I can stay in the lane of my genius and doing the things I love, which is why you build your practice, so you can attract the right team too. And then when you have that level of self-awareness, you can also do the things that help you create some boundaries around that too, where it's like, first of all, having awareness means you're taking stock of the thoughts you think. And when you want to go touch the familiar hot stove that makes you feel like shit, you just let yourself only touch it for 2 seconds instead of staying there for 20 minutes or 2 hours or 2 days or 2 weeks or whatever, right? Because we all have ingrained patterns. It's just how fast we can bring ourselves back to the choice of how we want to feel. And that doesn't mean I'm avoiding emotions. It just means there's also a high level thought, is to realize I could choose to feel however I wanted to feel. It actually is a choice, and I'm going to cultivate the new choice that I want to feel.
Okay, that was absolutely rock star. I'm not going to add anything to that, because I think by adding anything, I'm just going to water it down. So you guys heard that. So just replay the last 2 minutes or 3 minutes, okay? And I think that would be a great way for you guys to wrap this podcast and get out into your offices, or if you're listening to this on the way home, get home and choose the attitude that you're going to walk in the door now. So if you're listening to this on the way home and you've had a busy day in the practice and families at home waiting and kids are at home waiting or anyone's at home waiting, it's like, choose the attitude that you're going to walk in the door with. Or if you're on the way to the office right now and you're about to be serving people today, whether it's 5 people or whether it's 55 people or any number, choose the attitude that you're going to rock up to in your team meeting starting right now today, because it makes all the difference in the world. Lona, I had a blast making this one. Thank you so much. The 3 foundational pillars of practice success. You heard it here, guys. I think this one is worth going and listening to on repeat because success leaves clues. Lona, thank you so much. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, please go ahead and subscribe. There is 3 dots if you're listening to this on podcast app, 3 dots in the top right-hand column. You can subscribe, or even better, leave us a 5-star review. That's one of the ways that it helps us help more people in chiropractic. And that really is our mission, to get out there and help you serve more people and in turn serve chiropractic as well. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Dr. Lona, you're a rock star, and we'll catch you next week.
See you then. Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, please click the links in the show notes to schedule a call.